All right. Hey, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome, welcome. So, we were just on a little while ago talking about the implications of um, all of this grooming, and we're going to say grooming. It's okay to say grooming here tonight, and in particular about having not we're not just not hyperbole in North Carolina schools of wow, somebody's been accused of being a pedophile or we think they are. There's actually legitimate, convicted criminals who are still licensed right now, to teach in our K through 12 schools. So I'm going to bring on a very special guest. So we've got a very special. I know that a lot of our audience has heard um, Gays Against Groomers. What I did not know before any of this is that lo and behold, um, there's a North Carolina chapter, and I'm going to introduce you right now to the chapter leader. Brian, how are you?
I'm
Welcome.
good. Thank you. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Well, not great, because we're here talking about something that we really, if we had our druthers, we'd be talking about what's in your red Solo cup. Let's
Yeah.
be That's right. That's right. So tell us a little bit about we know about the national chapter. A lot of us know about Gays Against Groomers. Tell us about your group nationally, and then let's bring it down to the local level. What do y'all do?
Our national level is a group. We're made up of LGBT people who, we stand against the sexualization and indoctrination of children in the schools. The drag queen story hours. The drag performances for children. Our organization has grown. Right now, we're at like 202,000 followers on Facebook, and it's all the chapters are actually growing. We have chapters now in 3 different countries, and I think we've made a lot of progress this year, and getting legislation passed. People involved with Gays Against Groomers has been responsible for meeting with state legislature, senators, representatives. We've spoken at before the houses and school board meetings, and we've gotten historic legislation passed. And I think this is the most legislation in our nation's history geared toward protecting children against this stuff. And Gays Against Groomers has played a major part in that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that you're on the forefront of standing against these drag shows for children. It's interesting because we first started reporting on this 2 years ago, and people said, don't give them a lot of attention because, and in a sense, I get it, right? Don't give them a lot of attention. They just want attention. But we've seen it just explode over the last few years. What are you doing on that front?
Well, here in North Carolina, I mean, it happens, we have the drag queen story hours are popping up everywhere. I mean, it's like almost, we can't even keep up it here in the South, here in North Carolina. I mean, it's like on every town that we come across. But here in North Carolina, we go out straight to the businesses. I was just involved every weekend. I've been at a protest. There's a restaurant called East Frank's in Monroe, and Monroe, North Carolina. It's a little small southern town right outside of Charlotte. But they were featured on Kelly Clarkson's show about 2 women bringing drag to a small town. Nothing in the Kelly Clarkson's story on the restaurant featured that children were in the audience. Of course, everyone's going to be. I have no problem with the drag show for grown adults. Sure. I have no problem with the private business. I mean, if they want to have a drag show 24 hours a day and right in the middle of town in that private business, that's their own business. I'll be the first one there to defend their right to do that. But they don't want to tell you what goes on behind the scenes, and just like. Yeah, I see it every day. I mean, yeah. We've got pictures of the East Franks just the end of last summer, where a drag queen, they swore up and down the children were not in the audience, but then we had someone go in and actually take pictures, and we have a drag queen holding a 5-year-old child in downtown Monroe, holding a 5-year-old child during her performance or his performance. I mean, it's gone from allowing the children to come in to view it to now we're actually picking them up and using them as props in these shows.
Part of it.
You know?
Part of the show. I mean,
this person was dressed in. I mean, I'm a guy, so I don't know what it's called, but whatever the thing is, the snaps in the crotch, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but anyway, he was wearing one of those and fishnet pantyhose, and you know that is the attire of a stripper. That is the attire of burlesque, cabaret.
You would never let a kid into a strip show, period.
No, you would go, if a child went into a strip show, they would lose their liquor license. The owner would go to jail. The parent would go to jail. The child would be taken away.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, we're expected to be sitting out here and praising these people for allowing children to come into drag shows when there is absolutely no different. You cannot police this. I've been backstage at a lot of drag shows. I've seen a lot of drag shows. I've got a lot of drag queen friends, and I would say 95% of all drag shows, I'm 53, and 95% of all drag shows I've seen had a sexual tone to it. So they're not going to tell me all of a sudden that they're going to tone it down for children. Yeah, you know.
This is the birdcage, people.
Right. They're not going to come out. You don't get the big dollars and get the big tips by coming out there dressed as, you know, the first lady or something. You get it coming out there dressed like Madonna and performing Madonna type acts in front of children. And that's where the big money comes in. So they can't tell us that does not go on when children are in the audience.
No. I mean, my in-laws' family business are on Duval Street in Key West. See my share of drag shows, right? I mean, we know what that's about. And we all know, if you've ever been to Key West, if you've got tiny children, you know, after midnight, you don't want them out there. It's 10 times worse than that. And actually, sadly, the far left, the progressive, they pushed it so much. They almost, I get the sense that they're trying to be so in your face that they're doing stuff that's utterly inappropriate. I saw footage from a drag show the other day where, you know, a guy had his microphone in a certain place, you know, and had a child speak into it.
I saw that as well.
It's really, you know, it's sickening. And as we talked about, you know, gay people, in my opinion, are being falsely maligned for this. Right. This, in my opinion, is the misappropriation of you know, the legitimate fight for civil rights and Stonewall, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And it's going somewhere that it's not supposed to go. I mean, look at Brian, if you look at a majority of pushing these books in the school that are absolutely insane, or pushing the drag time story hours, gay people are not behind it. I'm telling you, it's generally white.
Drag has, whether people in the gay community want to admit it or not, drag has always been a fringe part of our community. Granted, it's been our only source of entertainment because, you know, being in, you know, the gay bars and stuff, we didn't have, like, the only entertainment we had were drag queens and stuff. But the majority of gays and lesbians, they would prefer a place to where they could just go and meet and mingle. It just so happens that drag had to, you know, became a part of the culture that way. But for it to even be considered fringe in our own community, why they have turned and thought that it was going to be widely accepted by throwing it on the straight community, and then going after the one thing that they knew that the straight people were going to get pissed at is going after their children. And, you know, that's where I started thinking there's some type of radical movement behind this. It's not coming from the gay community. No. The majority of this is being pushed. I have evidence of two entertainment companies here in the North Carolina area. One is out of Greensboro, and the other one, ironically, is located here in the exact same city that I'm located, this small little town in North Carolina. I'm right outside of Charlotte, but it's called KBJB Entertainment. You know, BJ right in the middle of the thing. So on that, yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I noticed. Yeah. And I've ran into this woman. She's from New York. She moved to this small town. And between her and this other production company, they are responsible for, I would say they're responsible for half of the drag shows or the drag queen story hours that are going on like these because if you notice, a lot of these drag queens, these drag queen performances, not the story hours, but the performances that allow children, a lot of them are taking place in these draft houses, tap houses, breweries, stuff like that. And I mean, it's always an alcohol-related business that is taking it there. And I don't know what the connection with these production companies is with these breweries, but I'm going to be honest with you, just the connection here in North Carolina, that's something worth looking into and trying to see where they're meeting.
If only we knew of an investigative journalist, Brian.
Well,
we'll see what we can do.
I've got some new information. I got all the information about the one who does the KBJB entertainment. She is also the one that is responsible for doing the Union County Pride event that was held. They were going to have a drag show in the park for the Pride, and they were also going to have the story hour. But they tried to said that the children wouldn't be around the drag queens that were performing, but they were literally within 50 feet of each other. And the children, the drag queen was sitting there reading the story with the children looking toward the drag queen with the other drag queen twerking in the background. I mean, it was impossible. The children had to have seen it. There's no way possible that they wouldn't. But we were successful. We were successful to make that their very last time in a Union County public park. It will never be, there's already been an ordinance passed because of that, and they will never be allowed to do that in a public park again. So that's one good thing here in North Carolina that we've done.
It's what I'm sensing is that in North Carolina in particular, that's where we reside. A lot of these drag shows are going into Moore County, right? They're going into Union County or rural places. So again, it's a deliberate type of setup to make the gay community look bad. It's a caricaturizing of gay people. Let me give you another example how it's done in school. So we so often hear that these books, by the way, some of these books, Brian, you know it, they can make a blind man sick. They're not at all. Yeah, I mean, look, if they were not drawn, somebody would be in jail. Okay, but it's considered art. So what the far left is saying is that, look, gay kids need to see themselves in the literature, etc. It's like, okay, so gay teens are need to see themselves hypersexualized, and they can be off in the corner reading pornography while the straight children are reading math, history, etc. It is so offensive.
It is
offensive.
It is. It's like we're only considered to be sexual beings, to be gay and everything. And it's like, you have a book written about a coming of age female, and it's going to be like a beautiful story. If it's like a coming of age gay male, it's going to be all about sex. You know?
And there it's the worst stereotyping ever. And yet again, I know that most of the public understands that this is not being pushed by gay people, but I mean, my goodness, it's happening so much that again, this is falsely, it's a setup. It is a setup.
But that's like with Gays Against Groomers. It's important for people, say someone's driving down the road and they see a bunch of straight people standing out in front of a gay bar or a restaurant that's doing a drag show or something. And it's just a bunch of nothing against Christians or anything, but I'm just saying, say a bunch of Christians that are standing there protesting it. Well, the average person coming down are going to they might think that might be anti-gay or something, or, something like that. That's why I say it's so important that gay people are visible and getting out here. And we should be the ones that are on the front lines of these protests. A lot of people ask me, why do I need a pride flag, a rainbow flag? Because I always say, when you see these types of events where you see the grooming of children and everything, you've always got that pride flag, that rainbow flag flying. And we need to start seeing that rainbow flag flying in the opposition. Yeah. And we need to start showing people just how many gay people are out here that are totally disgusted by this. We're just disgusted by you.
100%. I mean, I've had on my show, dear friends of mine, Danny and Craig. They have a daughter I think she's 13 now. I mean, they're coming on the show again, by the way, guys, on Thursday night. We'll be talking about this issue, but they've made it very clear. You come into the bathroom with my daughter as a male, and I don't care what you call yourself, you're going to be going out in a wheelchair. I mean, they work out a lot. What can I say? But I mean, they're very protective of their daughter. They're very protective over children, and really take a dim view. But you're right. I mean, gay parents deserve a seat at the table for sure. And we need to, I mean, big props to your group and you guys, because you, in a sense, Brian, do you think you've made it okay for folks who've been timid about speaking out on this? You think you made it okay for them to do that?
A lot of straight people are scared to speak out because they're afraid to be called a homophobe and are afraid to be called a bigot or whatever. But I think they trust me. There's not a protest I'm not the loudest at, always. And they see me out there calling them out. That gives these other people, hey, well, you know, he's a gay guy and he's out here calling them out. And I get more people to join us. And don't let these people fool you. You're not a homophobe. You're actually a decent person for sitting here calling this out. You know, and I think that's where a lot of the people get scared and don't want to get involved in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were early on, we took on these surveys about 2 years ago, and I read through them, the surveys they're asking kids in school. And it's really asking children to out themselves, which could be extremely dangerous before you're ready. And so the schools are actually, you know, we're talking about the surveys that are part and parcel of social emotional learning, you guys, the panorama surveys, etc. I've noticed that they're asking 3 separate times if you're gay or not, in 3 different configurations. But what they're really trying to do is force children to out themselves before they are ready. And guys, if you don't know this, I'll tell you, it's a very personal decision when to out yourself, who to out yourself to. It shouldn't be the damn government.
Right.
And that's what
very private thing as well. You know, that's why, you know, when I came out at like 15 and I did start going to the bars, and, you know, it's like, it was the only place I could find another gay person, you know, people like me, you know, so I started going out to the bars and stuff. But, you know, I understand that these are people that, especially the young, whether they're gay or straight, when they're at that age, they're just identifying as to who they are, and they're confused. I mean, just like gays and straights, that's where we're both alike. You know, and you've got someone standing there constantly with an arrow telling them to go down this road. The
government, not just someone.
Of course, a child that hasn't developed and figured out who they are, they're going to follow that. And now they've got those arrows with flashy signs and, you know, bright lights and everything. And they're wanting them all to go on down that road and everything. It's like we were talking about, you know, transing the gay away. They're trying to erase gay people.
Yes, 100%. This movement is conversion therapy with chemical castration and mutilation. And I want to tell you what that means, you guys. So conversion therapy is you know, it's wrong. It's making it not okay to be gay by sending someone to a camp or whatever and indoctrinating them on this is evil, you have to stop. Now, the same thing happens when, you know, Sarah thinks she's attracted to girls at 17 or whatever, and they're saying, no, Sarah, you're born in the wrong body. And then, you know, Sarah does things that are irreversible and problems happen. And so that's what this is all about. But we could go on and on and on and talk about this. I think what's interesting is that we're, you know, seeing things the same way about this. And I think, you know, people need to make this argument too. This trans movement is not good for anyone, whether you're gay or straight, and not good for children. Now, let's change gears and get into the real problem of predators in our school, which, by the way, in our research, we've done extensive amount lately. It's not, I mean, I know that you know this, people, but these are people from every walk of life. Most of them are straight, right? So there goes that stereotype. Because, by the way, when we talk about grooming in schools, I love how fast that progressives say, oh, that is so homophobic. Dude, the groomers in schools are hetero by and large. right? It's why is that such an offensive term when in fact it has nothing to do with one sexuality?
Right. Well, groomers come across every male, female, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, black,
Yes.
white. Well, I mean, there is no profile for a groomer, and
Most of
they're
them,
in every category. They're in every category.
you know, what's interesting is I have some friends in law enforcement, and I was, you know, we're doing this work, we're doing a deep dive on who these people are, and I said, you know, I'm just not finding. I'm finding a white folks overrepresented in the sample. What's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, you're just not finding them as much. Doesn't mean they're not there. You're not finding them as much, but you're going to find, you know, this, that, or the other. And you have to remember when you're looking into these things, into the big pile, is that they're going to be, again, even in these Title IX schools or whatever, there's no type, but the victims, the law enforcement said the victims are usually folks that will not be able to fight back. And that's usually a low income Title IX schools, etc. It's not people with, you know, parents like helicopter parents. They're going to go for the parents, you know, single mom, foster children, things like that. And that really made me sad.
No.
It's just, yeah. And so you have to really, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, everyone's suspect, but I did notice this, Brian, what's overrepresented in our data, coaches.
Yes.
That blew me away.
We've seen that here. I've seen that several times in our local news here in Charlotte, in the Charlotte area. Several high school coaches, you know, being involved with students and stuff. And
yeah, and females too.
Right.
Female coaches, by the way. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, that what I got from law enforcement is the victims are all similar.
Yeah.
But the perpetrators are very vast.
Right.
So, you know, very, very scary stuff. So I'm going to present to you guys, if I can figure this out. Oops. Okay. I just stream. Okay. So you and I got in the conversation because you read our story about predators in the classroom. And the question that we posed in this is, why in the hell do convicted sex predators have valid teaching licenses in North Carolina? Now, having said that, false accusations, they happen. Due process, that's a right given to everyone. So, Brian, since I'm the expert here in education, I'll tell you that when someone is accused of wrongdoing, what a school will do is, with pay, suspend the teacher until an investigation can come forth. Okay. Makes sense. Totally fair. Right? So you're going to recognize one of these guys here on the left is from Cabarrus County. Yeah. I think that's how we came to be. So this is one example. Jeremy Flock, 4 counts of, when I tell you the punishment is, you're going to hit the roof, Brian. 4 counts of child sexual exploitation, 1 count of soliciting sex from a child, felony possession of meth, teacher license, valid and good standing. This matters. Let me tell you why. He got 30 months of probation.
Now, he was fired, wasn't he? I do believe he was fired. And it was already at, you know, his trial's already been gone. I think that happened in February of last year. And so he's held a teaching license for over close to 13 months since his conviction date.
Well, his conviction date was 12/22.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then his February must have been his arrest date.
Yes, okay. Yes. And so I'm going to explain the process of how that works. Let me give you another example. Andrew Braxton Allen. Now, this is a Lee County teacher, taught there. I believe he was a principal, taught for 10 years. There are a series, okay, $2 million bill. So he's in prison now. A series of things they're investigating. But at this point, multiple sex offenses against children, indecent liberties, etc. Teacher's license in good standing. And I use these as an example. You know, both of these schools did the right thing. And what is the right thing? All right, here's how this works, you guys. So let's say, God forbid, there's a complaint to the school. Somebody complains, right? Again, suspended. The school investigates. Oftentimes, they'll bring in other investigators to do this. They are required by law to file a police report. And let me tell you, in my experience, barring a few exceptions, nobody's happier to pick up the phone and call the damn cops than the school. Then immediately within 5 days, they are required to alert the State Board of Education. The State Board of Ed is really Catherine Truitt, right? Because the DPI is the State Board of Ed only meets once a month. She is the manager of the Board of Education, right? The secretary for the board. She decides right then, there are 3 things that she can do. Well, many things, but she can revoke. Okay, maybe that doesn't make sense in an investigation. She can suspend. That's what often happens or should happen. 2-year suspension, Brian, and then whatever. She can reprimand or investigate. She needs to be able to investigate, right? So the superintendent files a report, Title IX coordinator, and DPI figures out what they're going to do. That's the flow chart. Now, I may need to enlarge this with you guys. Hold on, let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, so I got this, you guys, from the Federal Board of Education, the Federal Department of Education. They don't do a lot right. In fact, most they don't do right, if we're being honest, but they did this right. Let's see if I can blow this up here. All right, so here's what they said. They said, this is the gold standard to keep your school safe in the state. Number 1, a background check mandatory in every single freaking school. That is not required at the state. Not required for charters, not required anywhere. Districts have to decide, do they do that or not? Some do, some don't. Okay. Number 2, Brian, you got to be required at the state level. You got to make these schools mandatory. They check the last employer. A lot of people are just looking on the DPI's website and saying, well, God, he's got a license in good standing. Let me hire him. Now, here is the thing that's really going to get you mad. These things you have to do. Mandatory reporting at the district level is being done. But state teacher licensing administrator, they got to keep the damn website current.
Exactly.
Here's another one. The state, get this, must investigate every act of impropriety. They must. So let's go back and take this dude, okay, who is sitting, some of these guys, by the way, 3 years go by before their trial. They got a teacher's license. So when this comes to Superintendent Truitt, this particular guy, by the way, he voluntarily surrendered his license. That has not been reported on the state's website. There's no excuse for that. But let's say, for the sake of argument, this guy, he wanted to play hardball. He wanted to keep his license. Well, guess what? The school did their due diligence and did their investigation. The cops and the DA did theirs and charged him. Catherine Truitt is telling us, well, until they've been convicted, we can't do anything. That is not true. And in fact, I just showed you that example in Cabarrus County where he was convicted, sentenced. He's on the sex offender registry.
And had his license for 3 months still, almost.
Yeah. So the system's broken.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was shocked when I found out a local teacher was, I mean, I knew he wasn't teaching, but I was still shocked that someone that was on the North Carolina Sex Offenders Registry still had a teaching license in North Carolina. Like you said, he could have easily went to the other end of the state where no one would have saw the local coverage here in the Charlotte area about his crime and everything, and would have had no idea what his name was. And like you said, they would just looked and saw he had a current teaching license, and he could have been doing this again at, say, down in Wilmington.
Yeah. Well, there is a class action lawsuit in Guilford County and one in New Hanover as well. And in Guilford County, that's exactly what happened. So check this out. A guy who, and again, a coach, seems to be, I mean, if you're looking for the number one thing I found, sadly, white men are overrepresented, like I told you, and coaches. It's very weird. Anyway, a guy was arrested for, suspicion of, 17 different felonies, went to Davidson County and was teaching for a month when it caught up with him. It's extraordinary. I mean, you and I think, well, gosh, that should be a basic. I mean, that should be a standard, but we know that the system relies on humans, and humans are foolproof, or you got to make it foolproof for them, and they're not always doing what they need to be doing.
Is there no connection of when it being reported back to the state if these people, teachers, are arrested?
Yeah. Okay. So the system there. Well, so here's the way it should work. 5 days. The school has 5 days to report it. And so to your point, when it goes from the school to the DPI, where does it go? Mm-hmm. We're being told it goes in some file. But clearly, you don't have like an elf sitting there, right, watching the court docket go on it. You don't know. So Catherine Truitt tells us now there are over 50 teachers awaiting trial for sex offenses and other offenses right now.
Just in our state?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it really is. It's like every time you turn around a corner, there's one there.
There absolutely is. And I've often wondered about that. Is it that we need teachers so badly that we are taking people off the street? But that's not true, because most all of these teachers are actually licensed. So they have a degree, they're passing the test, they're doing their continuing education.
You got to have some better monitoring or something going on in the classrooms. That's where all this stuff is. I mean, it's not like everything's being developed outside of the school. What's budding and taking place is happening inside that one classroom with that one teacher. And we've got to have some type of oversight. That's like, a lot of people say it's wrong to have cameras in the class. I think we should have a camera in every single class, and parents of those students inside that class should be able to have a passcode. So at any time during the day, be able to check in on just spy in on their child's class.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong going on. I mean, why are you worried? But you got the teachers against that. You got the school system against it. The teachers unions, really, where that's where I think a lot of the problems stems from the teachers unions. I don't know if you even saw the clip today of the teacher union, just screaming and everything. I can't remember what she was going off about, but that right there shows you just how much power they have. And
and not in North Carolina, fortunately, but yeah.
That is because a friend of mine I'm not going to mention any names. He was actually fired from Mecklenburg County just for being a conservative. He was a gay teacher, and he was fired because he went onto his social media post and everything. And they were so concerned about this gay teacher and what he was posted on his own private account, but they weren't worried about what this gay teacher was doing to the actual students in the classrooms.
Well, yeah, no. And I actually don't know. Yeah, exactly. And so that you bring up a good point. So the governor's school is run by the DPI. And we have Dr. David Phillips, who was fired after 8 years of perfect service, conservative, white Christian teacher, fired after giving a lecture that refuted critical race theory. And Catherine Truitt says he was a terrible teacher, got great reviews, etc., and fired his ass, no due process, no nothing, and yet keeps a convicted sex offender with his license. Now, Catherine Truitt is giving predators more protection and more privilege than she is these child victims and any conservative teacher, including your friend.
I'm sorry, who did you say?
Including your friend. Your friend could have raised the issue
Oh,
that
oh.
he was improperly, dismissed, I believe, at the state. But yeah, I mean, so in essence, we have a state who is protecting the predators,
Right,
and giving them due process. It's a real shame. We haven't had a superintendent who has spoken out about the grooming going on in school. So when you've got, these lax standards, then you've got those books and social emotional learning, which makes it okay to teach damn near anything in the name of sexual identity. It's really a recipe. I mean, if you're a pervert, why the hell wouldn't you get a teaching degree and go and do this?
we do have one good person who is a great spokesman in our state. That's Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. He has been like one of the most outspoken high-level politicians that we have in the state about the grooming and the sexualization of the children. And he gets a bad rap for that. He's called a racist and everything, even though he's our first Black lieutenant governor in our state's history. But
well, you're a homophobe. I'm an anti-Semite. He's a racist. That's what they like to do to us, right?
Oh, exactly. I've never been called homophobe many times since 2017. And I was like, oh my God, how is this even possible that, that can even be said and people actually even, I don't even know.
You don't toe the line. If you don't toe the line, you know how it is.
They always say you're the wrong kind of gay. I'm the wrong kind of gay for to fit in. So.
Yeah. Well, we're renegades. So, look, we care about the children. We care about this issue very much. And so I want to thank you for being on. And I have to tell you, we've got to come together. We've got to get more involved with this stuff. And we've got to speak out policy wise. Right. We write a lot about policy. We critique policy and we kind of follow the bouncing ball. But on the front line of the culture war, I mean, you're not on the front line. I mean, you're literally the cannonball that shot out of the cannon, Brian.
We're trying to get, this is a good point. I apologize if it looks like I'm sweating. Here in North Carolina, we're having a heat wave in the middle of.
It's like 84 degrees today, you guys.
And I can't turn my air conditioner on. So I have my window open and I'm just sitting here feeling like I'm just sweating to death. But we just got through having our recruitment week with Gays Against Groomers. It was very successful. I'd like to encourage anyone to check out the local chapters, see if you've got one in your state. If you don't have one in your state, contact the Gays Against Groomers, a national group, get one started. It's very easy. They will walk you through it all. Once you get it started, it all just starts coming into play there. It's like when North Carolina, we immediately started bonding with Protect North Carolina Kids and Mom's Army and growing a coalition right there. So, we got to start taking all these groups have got to try staying on the right side of history. We've got to all come together and be a big, more powerful force.
Yeah.
So I would encourage everybody to check into Gays Against Groomers and help us build our numbers.
Yeah. There are strength in numbers, guys. I mean, I've seen what you've done, the work that you've done, the way you're speaking out. You've got an excellent blog as well. I'm trying to figure out the name of it, but it really taught me a lot. Yeah. So I want you guys to all check that out.
We all have different missions. I mean, we have the same mission, but we all have different specialties as to what we do. Like here in North Carolina, we're really here in North Carolina, we're really into the protesting. We're really into going out on the front lines, going to the exact restaurant, going to the I'll be speaking March 14th at the Monroe City Council. So we go right to where it's happening.
What's going on there?
Ma'am?
What's going on there at the city council meeting?
City council. The last city council meeting, this restaurant, East Franks, that we were just talking about, this keeps trying to push it and everything. They were speaking. There was nothing even going on about any gay issue or anything, but all of a sudden they all come up there and a lot of them got up and signed up to speak, and they started speaking about, having having drag shows for kids was acceptance and stuff. And there was no pushback there because no one knew what was happening or anything. It was totally off subject. So I'm going to go on the 14th and counter what was said last month, because
they're not going to know what to do with you.
Everything they said was a blatant lie. It was all a lie. It's like, you can be against this stuff and still be pro-gay. You can still support the gay community without wanting a child sitting there watching a man twerk in lingerie in front of him.
Again, very insulting to say that the litmus test for being gay is accepting a man twerking in front of a 4-year-old child. That is so offensive. And I hope that you guys point it out every single time.
It's a slap into everything that the elder gay community has actually marched for and everything. I remember I marched in the very first gay pride parade in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was nothing like what goes on today. Back then, the streets were lined. I mean, there were thousands of people lining the streets. They spit at us, threw bricks at us. There was like 50 of us marching. I marched for equal rights. And I didn't march to get to 2020 or 2022 when last year, I don't know if you saw it on the news, last year at the Charlotte Gay Pride Parade, there was a child, 7 years old, dancing on a stripper pole. It made national news overnight. I didn't march there for gay rights to have a 7-year-old child dancing on a stripper pole at the Gay Pride Parade. Now we've got men dressed in dog suits and walking around. We've got people walking around.
Yeah.
It's just degrading for everything that we actually marched for. We got our rights now, and now it's just like, it's true. Give an inch, they take a mile. In this case, they've gone from the East Coast to the West on that inch. So, we've got to join Gays Against Groomers, because trust me, if any organization out there nationally right now that will get out there and fight them, and if you want to join us, we'll be on the front line with you.
Absolutely. And we'll join you in that fight. So thank you very much, Brian. I know we're going to be seeing a lot of you, but listen, tune in on Thursday night, because we're going to have Danny and Craig talk about this issue and what it's like to be in this fight as, gay parents. We're also going to have Melissa Mason, who is a New Hanover School Board member, talking about closing these loopholes, and how the grooming material in conjunction with these gaps in our system is not the right thing. I mean, let's not forget, gay children can be victimized too. That's what we need to understand. And so the folks that do claim to want to help gay children truly, they have a vested interest in making the school safer for everybody.
I don't want to get political, but I will say one thing. Like we were talking earlier, it's not really the gay community that is pushing a lot of this. They're finding the useful idiots to carry it out. Like, they're finding the drag queens willing to come in and perform for some cash or whatever. But you have to get a little political in a way to realize that the majority of this is being pushed by progressive white women.
Of course. Yes,
it's
of course.
Always the progressive. I promise you, every drag queen story I can sift through the crowd, and I'll get to, at the end, I'll come to a progressive white woman.
Absolutely.
And she's the one always calling the shots. So, like I said, we got to find. We know what the problem is and everything. We got to find out what the common denominators is, because we got to figure out how to stop. We know it's the progressive white woman pushing all this. And come together and figure out the best way to.
Malcolm X knew who the enemy was. The progressive white women, well, men and women, but I think he said something about the women, but it generally is. Sure, it can be males, but I find that you're right, because we got to the tail end of Black Lives Matter, right? And my Black friends were like, dude, nobody in the parade is nobody's Black here. What's happening? And it was hijacked. The movement is hijacked. And so if people don't police it, that's what happens.
Every time somebody gets into my face at a protest or something, it's either Antifa or progressive woman standing there screaming in my face. It's never the drag queen standing there in my face screaming at me. It's always one of those other two. And we got to stop that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thank you again. This is just the beginning of a beautiful partnership.
It's been great talking with you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to enjoy the rest of my solo cup.
Yeah, I haven't seen your solo cup at all. Let's see it. Okay, you know what? Is it Tuesday night? It's Tuesday night.
Yes.
Tuesday night.
I spent all day at the DMV today, so I wanted a little beverage before I went to bed.
You deserve it. Anytime you're dealing with the government all day, you deserve a solo cup.
The DMV especially. Oh my God, I can understand how people go insane there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, have a good evening, guys. Thank you, Brian.
Check us out, Gatesville Groomers, North Carolina.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys Thursday night.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.